So, the part of the objective of these, besides just having fun and having an excuse to get together, is to increase awareness of nature and you know, the gifts that we're fortunate enough to live amongst, right? And so, you know, the first presentation was about hummingbirds. And interestingly, I'll pass this around, we found this, a little hummingbird nest right after that. And then last week, Chris did a great presentation on the bees and pollinators and mariolas. You know, there's the mariola box he left. And mariolas moved into our deck. They're actually where those orange ribbons are tied. They're actually in the deck with a little tube attached to the tape, and they're living there now. So we got to relocate them into a better environment. Today, I saw a pisote right out here, and I haven't seen a pisote here in a long time. So, yeah, it's about awareness. And one thing I've realized for my part, last year I ran over a beautiful snake. I had somebody tailgating me, and I just couldn't slow down fast enough. And it bothers me to this day. Big, beautiful green vine snake. And so part of my awareness is now, my part for me is I'm trying to drive a little slower when I can, so that if, you know, they're not crossing our road. We built a road through their home. And so anyway, my part of, so I think it is cool if everybody takes away some sort of message regarding that, about that appreciation and awareness of this beautiful place we're happy enough to live in. So, without further ado, yes?
Well, I'm here also to represent the saving of wildlife. You all know who I am, right? I rescue animals. And we have a lot of feral cats, and we have a lot of dogs that don't have a home. So they live in the nature. So they're killing the pasotes. They're killing the birds. Can't do it alone. I have a colony of 100 cats on the Martin Luther King Road. You need them in, we need to have them trapped and custody. So you can always drop money off of Dr. Martin's office. You know, we brought the animals here. You know, humans are being neglectful to them, and the wildlife suffers. Yes.
Thank you. All right, so we're fortunate today to have Vincent Losasso, came 2.5-hour drive up here to share his camera trap videos and show and tell and a bunch of other stuff. You've probably seen him. I've looked at his stuff for years now on Tico Times. Camera trapping is not easy. It's hard work. I have a couple myself, and I kind of neglect them because it's a lot of work to do that and to keep finding the right locations, maintaining the traps, doing it all. So it's a real privilege to have Vincent here today, and thank you, and please, go ahead. Okay. Where am I putting this? Just anywhere.
How's that? Perfect. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Vincent Losasso. I am pretty much Guanacaste Wildlife Monitoring, which is an organization where I provide wildlife monitoring using camera traps as a service. About me, my educational background is environmental science and conservation. I got a master's degree in that in the US. My wife and I moved here almost 12 years ago now. So we've been in Costa Rica, always on the coast in Guanacaste. I started out working at a wildlife rehabilitation and release center for several years. And then I started to get into camera trapping, and I thought I would have a go at seeing if I could make it into a business, which it has been for almost 5 years now. So the plan for today, it's pretty informal. I put together a PowerPoint for you to give you kind of an overview of what I do and some of the results that I've gotten. I'm open to all and any questions. I'm going to show you the equipment that I use, and then I do a lot of these presentations with kids in schools, and they get sick of hearing me talk, so I like to bring things for them to play with. So I brought all those things for you guys to play with as well. So at the end, if you want to come up and take a look at all the teeth and skulls and everything, I can tell you about that. So here I'm going to get started with the presentation. Oh, also at the end, I made a video. It's It's like 7 minutes long. I tried to make like the greatest hits of a lot of the best videos I've recorded over the years. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Okay, so Guanacaste Wildlife Monitoring is really my wife and I. I am the one in the field doing everything with the camera traps. And then I asked my wife what she wanted to be called on here, and she said External Relations Coordinator. I don't even know what that means technically. I can tell you what she actually does. She speaks Spanish perfectly, so she helps me in all things related to Spanish. Sometimes they ask me to go on the news, and that scares me, and so she does that for me because she's better looking than me anyway. She deals with all of the finances, so she knows how to do all the electronic billing and everything like that. So she's running things behind the scenes, and I'm walking around in the forest. Okay, so first I'll show you what the camera traps are. The camera traps that I use are Browning cameras. There's a million different kinds, especially in the US, many different brands. I spent several years and lots of money trying each one to figure out what one I really like the best. For me, I landed on these. They run on 8 AA batteries, just regular batteries. They last, it depends on the amount of activity in front of the camera for how long it lasts. Also, it depends on if you set them for photo or video. I always set my cameras to video because I'm interested in not only what species are there, but also animal behavior. And rather than like one moment in time with a photo, I get to see some activity. I set my videos for 20 seconds. So these batteries will last on a camera that has a lot of activity for a month. And some, when it's a little bit slower, they can last up to 3 months. A secret with these, and I don't know if it's with all cameras, but once it gets below 50%, I have to change the batteries because things start getting wonky and it doesn't take the night videos, and it breaks my heart every time that I know that a camera was sitting in the forest and it wasn't working properly. So I just changed the batteries at around 50%. This camera has a little LCD screen that allows me to take a look at what it's looking at, and that helps me find the angles properly. You can change the trigger speed for how frequently you want them to take videos. So if it's a camera I'm not going to check for several months, I'll have a lot of time in between videos so it doesn't just fill up in the first week. If it's something that I'm checking very frequently, I can cut that time down so I don't miss anything interesting. All of the videos get recorded on SD cards, which the fun part of my job is tramping through the forest to find these SD cards and switch them out. So this is generally what I use. There are 2 kinds that I use, 2 models. One is has visible light at night. So this is the motion sensor. When something crosses in front of the camera, it activates it and it begins to record. The visible light, these will glow red at night, and that gives me a really nice high quality nighttime video. There are others that they'll be activated and you won't see anything at night. Those give you the video quality is not as good, but I use those when I'm afraid people are going to steal my cameras. So there's a lot of activity in the forest of people that aren't supposed to be there at night. And when they see the red glow, they steal my cameras. Is there anything else I put on here? Yeah, that covers it. These cameras and most cameras generally come with a strap for you to wrap around a tree and put it on there. And then to get the angle right, you need to find the right rock or the right stick. And then you put it in there and you pull it, and then it gets wiggly and doesn't work right. So I don't use the straps. I use these that you can screw right into the tree. And then this allows you to change the angles and get it exactly perfect, which that's what I'm interested in. And I forgot to mention, I chose these because they have the highest quality video for the most reasonable price. I'm interested in very clear, high quality videos. The only problem with these compared to the straps are they are not monkey or pisote proof. And so no matter how hard I tighten these, and I bring pliers into the woods with me, the monkeys will still grab them and then put it down, and then I have a camera facing the wrong way for some unspecified amount of time. But for me, it's worth it. Okay, camera placement. There are some rules of thumb that I like to use when I'm looking for just the right spot on a property. Well, it's not on here, but the most important thing is to find the old man that's known the property forever and then ask him a bunch of questions about where he's seen the footprints, what animals has he seen, and find me the good spots, because I'm never going to learn the property as well as somebody that's been on it forever. But generally, I look for sources of water. This is particularly important in Guanacaste when we have a super long dry season on the coast. And as the water shrinks down to just a few spots, I can get hundreds of videos per week of birds and just everything coming to get a drink. So that makes it super easy for me. That time is just about to end for me right now. My job gets harder in like the next week when it starts to rain. Then I look for trails, both wildlife trails and regular old people trails. The larger the trail, generally you're going to get larger species because they're brave enough to be kind of out in the open. So on a trail you could drive a truck down, in the right habitat you'll get the large cats, you'll get pumas, jaguars, and dantas, things like that. Like wildlife trails, little ones that go through the underbrush, you'll start to get smaller species that want to be covered all the time. Those aren't hard and fast rules, but it's just generally what happens. Then I look for food sources. Depending on the time of the year, fruiting trees will attract a lot of different species. If I happen to find something dead in the forest, I'm for sure putting a camera on it because all kinds of interesting things are going to come. Log bridges are always a good trick because it's a way to get across a body of water, and I put the camera right there so the animals have to walk right in front of it, and that always makes amazing videos. Lately I've been using these to get myself up into trees so I can make myself a little ladder. I'm only so brave, so I don't go very high up. But I'll go as high as I feel that I can. And then you have to find it where they're large enough branches that they aren't going to move a lot in the wind, otherwise you're going to get a bunch of videos of nothing. Also, it can't be looking at things that are waving around too much. So you have to find the right branch, but you can get a lot of interesting videos that way. And then the thing that you just get after a while, after doing this for several years, is you'll be walking around in the forest and you'll find a spot and you're like, okay, this is it. And it's not always for any particular reason, but sometimes it just like feels like the right spot. Places you want to avoid are places that are too open, because if you're in a field, the animal has every option to go in every single direction, and what are the chances that you're going to get a decent video of it? Places where the movement is constricted, you put your camera right at that point, and that's going to be the best videos. Okay, so when I get all of these videos for these different projects, I enter them into a camera trap database, which is just an Excel file. But for each video, I look at every single one of them, and I enter in I give the file a name, a number, and then the camera has a name, I put that in, then the GPS location, the species, the number of individuals, the date, the time, the temperature, and then any notes of any kind of particularly amazing like animal behavior that's going on.
Temperature 43.
I don't remember where I got this from.
It says temperature 43.
That's one thing about these Browning cameras is their thermometers are a little wonky. I'm not super interested in that data point, so I don't really care. I've noticed that they're higher than they probably really are. They do heat up in the sun. And then a video 1 minute from another video will have a wildly different temperature. So something's going on there. That's not what I'm focused on, but you're right. It gets a little wild that way. So I can go through the videos, I scroll through them quickly like this to make sure I'm not missing anything, and then I enter it like a crazy person, and I can go through a lot of videos in several hours. That makes all the information searchable, so that way I'm not just handing over a bunch of videos to an organization. They can actually know what they have. All right, who do we work with? So I started this not knowing if it was going to work, and I couldn't find any examples of this existing before as like wildlife monitoring as a service with camera traps. And so I just kind of take what comes along. And so far I've worked a lot with private landowners, folks that just have a big farm and they want to know what lives there. I've worked with people that are selling a large property and they want to say like, hey, look at all this wildlife we have here. This is amazing. I've worked in developments of I'm sure there are some around here, but along the coast there's Las Catalinas is a development, Las Ventanas, Hacienda Pinilla. There are places where people have homes and they generally have a huge protected area and they want to show the residents, okay, this is what lives in your development. Hotels, I've worked in several different hotels, large farms, specifically sugarcane plantations. I've had several contracts there. They often are doing different certifications where biodiversity is a part of it, and so they'll contract me they'll have forested areas, and to get their biodiversity component, they'll work with me on that. Specifically Taboga, I'm actually friends with the biologist that works there, so she hires me all the time. And then coffee farms, there's a large one called Aquiares in the Central Valley, and I did a project there with them. Schools, I try to work with schools as much as possible. I've had Wildlife Club before. I've worked with the local school in the town that I live in. Kids love this, so it's fun to get them in the field, and then we learn about the different species, and I make them review the videos with me and learn a bunch of animal facts. Nonprofits, there's one called FBS, which is Fondo de Biodiversidad Sostenible, and they work like FONA-FIFA, if you've ever heard of that. It's an organization that pays private landowners for the amount of forest that they're protecting. So per hectare, per year, you get some certain amount of money. And there's people all over the country protecting forest on their farms, and they've contracted me to go all over the place to these private farms, and they wanted they have the data on how much land they're protecting, but they wanted to know what species was on that land. So I've worked with them several times over the last 5 years, and it's always amazing. And then I've worked with, go ahead.
The question is that doesn't matter how big, what is the
that they work with?
No, just what would be the minimum of land?
I don't know that off the top of my head. They give me a big map and they say, we want you to work in northern Guanacaste, and then they'll show me all the maps or all the farms that they work with, and then they let me pick. So I pick the ones that are bordering national parks and places I think have jaguars, just because I want to see that. So I pick big ones. I don't know what the smallest amount of land they work with, but I could find the FONA-FIFA contact, and I'm sure there's some kind of data online that we could find about that.
We have the info for FONA-FIFA.
Oh, okay.
Can you say that again?
FONA-FIFA, we have their information. I can put you in contact with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a neat organization. I've worked in some national parks with CNAC, which is like the environmental ministry here. Mostly in Guanacaste, and then some security projects. Some are not focused on biodiversity, but more who's running around on my property at night. So then I use those cameras that don't have any visible light for poaching and trespassing. And then I'm about to hopefully start a tourism project where folks will be able to come with me to review cameras in a national park in Guanacaste. I'm currently getting all the paperwork with them, and I'm really excited about that. I haven't done that yet, but there are so many times where I'm checking cameras in some amazing forests and there's spider monkeys above my head, and I think, who wouldn't want to be here with me? So we'll see if that works. I hope it does. And then the last couple of years I've been being contacted by wildlife documentary filmmakers who were shooting in Costa Rica, and for example there was someone filming coatis and they wanted video footage of coatis fighting, and they never got that in their time, so they bought footage from me because I have thousands of coati videos and several of them interacting, fighting, and so that's been happening more and more lately, which is amazing. So hopefully those documentaries will come out soon and I can brag about how my wildlife footage is there. This is where have I worked? This is general, mostly in Guanacaste, but I have had a chance to go over to Limon several times, down in Osa. I currently have cameras in Perez de Ladon on a private little finca there. Aquiares is the one in the center of the country. But this gives you an idea. The last couple of years I drive long distances and then run around in the forest and then drive home. Okay, so it's hard to generally summarize all the projects. I picked out a few that just to give you an idea of the number of videos and if I could figure out the number of species that the project got. Generally, the more cameras and the longer amount of time you're monitoring on a property, the more videos, the more species you're going to get. So this ACT is a conservation area. Those are the national parks. I think we were in the field for like 9 months. So we got like 7,000 some videos of 89 species there.
89 species of mammals.
Mammals and birds, mostly. Reptiles and amphibians rarely trigger the camera, but sometimes. Usually the species list will be a huge list of birds, and then maybe 2/3 of that amount will be mammals, and then some tiny amount of reptiles and amphibians. FBS, these are the fincas that are getting paid to protect their forest. Nearly 10,000 videos there. And then this is just 2 private farms if people interested in the wildlife there. This is that sugarcane farm where my friend works. I've worked there several times over the last couple of years. And then these are developments that are just like right around my house, and they actually don't have many cameras. This is only 3 cameras and this is only 5 cameras, but they've had me working there several years, and so it just builds up and you get 13, 12,000 videos. And each one of those, I've looked at each one and typed in all the information about them into a database. So this is just some data I crunched for one study one time. I thought it was interesting that this is specifically in Guanacaste, that the dry season and the cameras on water spike the number of videos per day. And then as there's more water and more food spread throughout the environment kind of more evenly, I have less of a chance of getting that one animal in this one little range in front of my cameras. So then the videos per day goes down during rainy season. It's kind of true in other places, but very, very true in dry Guanacaste. So I didn't want to put a tiny font list of all the mammals I've gotten because it just is too much. So I just put down some interesting facts. If you have any questions, I can answer for you. So of the possum species in the country, I've recorded 6 of them. The one that's eluded me that I really, really want is called a water possum, or I think it's called a kapok or yapok or something like that. It's very interesting. It looks kind of like a Dalmatian in a possum form and swims around and has webbed feet. So I want that badly, and I haven't gotten it yet. Monkeys, I've gotten all 4 species. I don't work frequently where the mono titi, what's it called in English? Squirrel monkey. I've only recorded a couple of them in Osa, but they're not all over the place and I don't work there much. But I have gotten all of them. Rodents, I said 14 species, but I bet I have more than that and just don't know it because they're almost always at night and they all look very, very similar, and I'm not an expert in that. But there's a mess of species of rodents running around in the trees, on the ground, all over the place. The raccoon family has 2 more species that I want badly and have never gotten. I can't even say this properly. It's like a ringtail cat in the United States. I don't know if someone wants to shout out how you say this. I don't know. Olingo, it looks like a kinkajou, but it's just slightly different, and I still haven't gotten one. Again, I want that very badly. All the members of the weasel family in the country I've recorded. I love that family. I just think they're interesting. I'm missing one of the cats, the Uncilla, which is mostly in cloud forest, and I've just never even worked in the area where I could hope to get one, but I've gotten the puma, jaguar, ocelot, margay, and jaguarundi. And deer and peccary, there's 4 species, white-tailed deer and red brocket deer I've recorded, and then collared peccaries are very common, and white-lipped peccaries are not very common at all. They're bigger. I've only recorded a few videos of those in northern Guanacaste. I think I included them in the video because I'm particularly proud of them. I hope to record more of them in the future. Any mammal questions before I go on to anything?
How rare are olingos?
I think it's mostly that I'm not working in their spot. I think where in the higher elevations, like they might be here, but on the coast where a lot of my projects are, they're just not there. And generally, if I have maybe 10 cameras, I'll only have 2 in the trees and they're arboreal. So I just haven't had a great, my percent chance of getting them isn't very high, but I'm gonna keep at it.
So I have a question. So some of your data collection then is going to CNAC and going to the Costa Rican government and actually being used to inform policy and
In theory, I'm mostly the guy in the forest playing with cameras, and then I give it to them, and I'm like, "This is really neat. Are you going to do something with this?" And then, you know.
Well, yeah, you can't control what
Right, but especially that the ones in national parks, yes. And I've made it clear that I'm willing to share. It depends on the project. Some of these projects are private people that say, I don't want anybody to see any of this, so that's fine. But the ones that will let me share, I try to share in, if CNAC has any interest in it, or especially environmental programs and things like that. I try to get as many people to see this stuff as possible, because I feel like that's what is going to push any kind of
When you
change.
go to Monteverde and you get your ticket, is that your stuff up on the screen there?
I've never worked at Monteverde, so.
But no, but I think they probably use your video.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I put it out there. If someone wants to use it, use it.
Yeah.
Again, the bird list would be way too long, but I just put some things about birds. In dry season in Guanacaste, those water holes are full of birds. So they're bathing, they're getting drinks, that's the best time to get them. I don't know how many species in Costa Rica, I forget the number, it's an insane amount. I've only recorded a small fraction of that. I like to do this, which is put the camera on a stake at water level, because you just get really nice angles of water birds. I love that. When I can find nests, I'll put cameras on nests. That sugarcane farm where my friend works, they have a hobby roo nest in one of their fields. Hobby roos are very rare in Costa Rica. It's a stork that's about this big. And I have a camera on there actually right now, hopefully recording them right now. But I'll show you one of those videos. Like I said, I get up in the trees when I can, and I'll get several different species of birds. And then it'll change in the parts of the country. So your birds here are not the birds that are flying around in my front yard for the most part, even though I'm only a couple hours away. And then that's true throughout the entire country. There's some, like the great kiskadee is probably screaming kiskadee out here right now, and that's all over the place. But for instance, I don't have any toucans at my house, and you guys have them here. So it changes greatly. What's that?
Near Tamarindo.
Near Tamarindo, yeah. Bird questions?
I have, going back a slide, have you seen tapirs?
I have. Yeah, I love recording them. The most luck I've had is northern Guanacaste, the ACG, the Guanacaste Conservation Area. I have cameras right now in a place called Horizontes, which is a protected area. That's actually where I want to do the tourism thing, and I'm working on that. And that's the most tapirs I've recorded there. And I'll show you some of those videos. They're amazing.
I have a question. How many cameras do you have deployed at any given time?
I'll get to that slide. They always break. So I'm constantly buying cameras, and then I'm disappointed that my cameras are breaking or being stolen or washed away. So I average probably owning 50, and then I have them out in the field as much as I can, depending on how many contracts I have at any one time. I have a closet full of broken cameras, and I have a guy that I found who does some kind of magic, who takes them apart, and I don't even understand what he does, and he gets maybe 20% of them back to life. So I use that guy all the time. But yeah, I would say I own at any one time about 50 functioning cameras.
Do you have a source for cameras in Costa Rica?
My mom, my mother-in-law, anybody that comes down from the States, they're muling in cameras. To the point where I had my mom bring 30 one time, and they wouldn't let her out of the airport because it had too much value, and I had to get CNAC to write her a letter to give me my camera. It was a whole situation. She was all scared. But generally, they'll leave you alone if you have less than 30 cameras. Reptiles and amphibians don't generally trigger the cameras. They're small. Their movement is generally very deliberate, which doesn't activate the cameras. The species I get are mostly big old iguanas because they're big enough and they're common enough to set them off. Brown basilisk, especially around water, they'll trigger the cameras quite frequently. In Guanacaste, there's a lot of painted wood turtles. A lot of times they're just there and maybe like a deer walks by. And so then they didn't even trigger the camera, but they count as like a record. Giant toads are pretty much the only amphibian that triggers my cameras. You know, they're like hopping bowling balls. And crocodiles. When I'm in the right spot, I love setting up videos to capture videos of crocodiles.
They ever mess with your cameras?
Crocodile? I had a crocodile bite my I should have put that in the compilation. I had a video of it coming up and biting my camera. It was amazing. It's a missed opportunity. Highlights for reptiles. I found a crocodile cave one time. I'll show you some of those videos. It was a dry riverbed, and I saw a bunch of what I thought were black squinty-tailed iguanas all running in together, and I thought, oh, that's odd. And so then I put a camera there, and then I looked at the videos, and I realized that they were all juvenile crocodiles, and that the female was probably in there looking at me when I was like poking my head in there. I get some videos of snakes eating things, especially they'll sit in the dry season water holes and eat the birds that are coming for a drink. So I've gotten several of those videos. And then iguanas getting eaten by things. Everything eats iguanas. So ocelots, coyotes, birds of prey. Iguana's on the menu for everybody.
But what's the snake on that?
That's actually the sabanera that I pointed out at your house. It's I forget what it is in English, with the black on it.
Okay.
It's non-venomous. It's a common snake in the dry forest in Guanacaste. Dry forest whip snake, maybe? I don't know the name in English. Okay, so highlights of camera trapping over the years. What I love about this is that I travel all over the country. I've gotten to go down into Osa and over to Limon. And at this point, I feel like I've driven on all the main roads. I'll leave the house at 3 in the morning and drive 7 hours and run around the forest and drive 7 hours back home. Hiking in the forest with old men with machetes. These are my guys. So whenever I find a place that has an old man with a machete, I become friends with him because he knows everything. This is Don Jose over in Limon. He was 80 years old. The finca was up and down like this, and I could not keep up with them. I was about to have a heart attack. They're in amazing shape. I don't know how they do it. I get to see a lot of wildlife. The cameras record incredible biodiversity that's almost impossible for any one person just to see. And I spend a lot of time in the forest. I get to see a lot, and it's awesome. It's one of the best parts. But the cameras record so much more than I ever get to see. It's crazy. Pushing myself physically, that's just, sometimes when I'm up in the middle of a forest, they're always on mountains, it seems like. I don't know why it's never flat. And I think to myself, if I were working out in a gym, I would have stopped 30 minutes ago. There's no way I would do this, but you just got to keep going. You can't live in the forest. That ends up being a good part when you think about it in the past, and the time it stinks, it's difficult. I like writing about everything in the Tico Times. It's a fun way for me to share these crazy activities that I'm getting myself involved in. Wild modes of transportation. Sometimes the only way to get into the forest is on an ATV or on horseback. I've been to farms that are only accessible by boat. That's always just fun. What else did I say here? Reviewing the cameras never gets old because there's always something new on there, even after years of doing it. There's a new species, there's an animal you didn't expect to be there, there's always new behavior. It's never ending, so it never gets old. And then I even like sitting quietly in my computer reviewing all the things and entering them into the database. It seems tedious, but it fits my personality. I sit quietly with a dog at my feet and I look at wildlife videos for hours on end. Nobody bothers me. I love it. And then just sharing the videos with the public. I like putting things on social media. I like sharing things via Tico Times. I like doing these presentations. I like doing presentations at schools. I think people are interested in it. I think it's natural for people to be interested in nature. And these cameras are just a tool that's just an amazing way to show people what's running around out there. Okay, the problems with camera traps. I mentioned some of these. I've had, I don't know how many cameras stolen, 25 cameras probably at least. You know, people are hunting. It's an activity I think is actually going down now that it's illegal and the younger generation isn't doing as much as the older generation, but people are hunting and they don't want to be caught. My cameras get washed away in high water, so I love having cameras near water, but I have to be careful on the time of year. I've had cameras where I had it on a tree near a river and I go to check it and the tree's not even there anymore. Plants grow in front of the cameras, so in an environment like this, where you guys have lush vegetation all the time, if I have a long break in between reviewing cameras, I have to be careful because there'll just be a small tree like sitting right in front of it. The wind causes a lot of videos of nothing, so I have to be very careful about where I'm putting the cameras, how clear it is of vegetation. The tree cameras get blown around a lot, and I don't know how it is here, but there's a time at the beach where the wind is blowing like crazy, like, was it February-ish? And then I just get a million videos of nothing. And then just in general, Costa Rica is hard on cameras. So just leaving them outside all day and all night, all year, they just break. And then nobody fixes them except for Pito, my one friend in Matapalo. But I also found an organization that sells cameras in the US that has a 2-year warranty, which is a year longer than the manufacturer warranty. So I've sent them a bunch of broken cameras in a box and they send me new ones back. But it's just a fact. I'm always going to be buying more cameras, and my cameras are always going to be breaking or disappearing or being stolen. And then the monkeys, the common possum, coatis, and if there are cows around, they love to smash, turn, flip over, break the cameras. That's just part of it. I went to review cameras near my house the other day at a finca that has like dry forest. There are only 4 cameras there, and white-faced monkeys ruined every single one of them. So it just happens. Okay, that's my overview of camera trapping. And then I have my super cool video if you guys want to see some of the highlights of. So I think I estimated like 60,000 videos or something like that. And I could have spent days. I could have spent days picking out the best ones, and to me they're all the best ones, but this is as short as I can make it. We got 8 minutes. Did it go? They can be up to like 400 pounds, 500 pounds. I found poop under this tree, and I thought, someone's pooping here every day, and that's what it was.
You go to my car for it.
This is one of my home run cameras. Sometimes you find a beautiful spot and just hope something walks by. So he just happened by.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a juvenile common black hawk. They turn black when they're adults. This is a camera on a stick that I pushed into the mud right at water level there. This one was just a little out of frame, which breaks my heart a little bit, but it's still a good video. There were a lot of these videos. I just put in a clip. He ended up pulling the camera off the tree and then playing with the strap. I had the straps on one of those. These are grissons. I don't get them very frequently. They're in the weasel family. These are in Perez Zeledon. You guys definitely have them here.
Are they really blue?
They're gray. The light's a little off on this one.
We do or don't have it?
You do.
Sunny's got these.
This is a king vulture. They're wild looking. Jaguar undies come in a bunch of different colors. This is a dark one. This is my hobby rune nest camera. It's scary high. Checking that one. That's that crocodile cave. This one has visible light that he was not happy about. This is on that sugarcane farm where my friend works. I just thought it was nice and clear. This is a battle royale. I don't know why this is happening. I found a dead sea turtle on one of the farms that's on the beach. There's a lot of hermit crabs. This is that coffee farm in the Central Valley in Orapengula. This is a hobby-roo.
How tall are they?
About, yeah, they're big. I accidentally put this clip in twice, which my wife pointed out to me, but I didn't have a chance to take it out, so you're going to see that guy again. These are the white-lipped peccaries. They're bigger than collared peccaries and less common. This jaguar sat here for a long time. There were a lot of videos like that. This is a tyra or a tolomuco. It's a weasel, like a weasel family.
We have them right here.
Yeah, oh yeah. So I found a tapir swimming pool where this female and juvenile kept coming. These are tyras again. This is a log across the river in Limon. Here's a juvenile up there on the side. These are margays. This is in the coffee plantation as well. This is down in Osa. This is another great place for a camera, are water holes where the peccaries like to bathe. I cheated here. I sprayed cologne on that stick, and he's making him go crazy. This is the other species of deer. These are red brocket deer. They're in like thicker jungle, more humid jungle. This is down in Osa. I could have made a whole compilation of just the tapirs swimming in this water hole. I love these videos.
Do they play in the water?
Uh-huh. And they always go to the bathroom in the water too, so there's a lot of them pooping. You guys might get used to toucans. I don't see them a lot, so I'm always excited about toucan videos. There's a yellow-headed caracara being chased by a juvenile common blackhawk. This ocelot kept trying to get the juvenile crocodiles. There's a puma again. There's a white-tailed deer, just like up in the States. They're generally smaller here. So the juvenile still has spots. It's so young. Everyone loves those. I saw that scrape and I thought, oh, is that a cat scraping on there? And then I got this video and I was like, of course, it was a deer scraping on there. I don't get many otter videos. I know you guys have them around here. This is a kinkajou. Pale-billed woodpecker. This is the only time I got two jaguars together.
Wow.
I have no idea what's going on here. I've recorded a couple videos like this of peccaries chasing pumas in Osa. I don't know why. Mexican hairy porcupines. Yes, I have some. You can take a look at them. I hand raised one when I worked at the Wildlife Center. They smell like BO, they stink. He's eating a boat-billed heron there. Usually I just see one juvenile, but there was a pair here. Big old jaguar. I love these birds. They're the only pink bird in Costa Rica. They're rosette spoonbills. This is a female jaguarundi with a juvenile, and they're two different colors. I love this. This is some kind of mating thing going on here.
Yeah, it's enticing.
Can you imagine hearing that just out in the forest? Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Yeah, so those are some of my favorites. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No problem. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
What does the fog and the cloud forest do to your night vision? Does it screen?
It does. So I pick out the clearest, best ones for you, but 90% of the videos have something wrong with it. It's foggy, it got turned over. Yeah, the wetness breaks the cameras terribly. First, it makes the screen go, which makes it so you can't program it anymore, even if it's technically functioning. So the trick is then to get the same kind of camera, and then I just look at the screen that works and push the same buttons at the same time to program it, and then eventually that camera will die from all the wetness.
And then I wondered if you've ever tried making a dehumidifier box to go on the back of these things to put like dryer right in and keep them.
I've made little houses for them to try to keep the water off. What it ends up doing a lot of the time is blocking the light, which makes daytime videos nighttime videos, which I don't think are quite as cool. And then it doesn't help too much with the moisture, and then it invites a lot of wasps and other stuff to get up in there. And so like I haven't found it useful, so I haven't used it. I bought desiccant strips, I think they're called, and I tried ramming them in the camera, but then I just got a camera with like gooey old paper in it, and it didn't do anything. So it's just, I have to accept that they don't last that long, and I have to keep in mind that I'm always needing to buy new cameras. You can put them in rice, and sometimes that magically brings them back, like I guess people do with cell phones. But that works maybe 25% of the time, less. But you can try it. Or just putting them in the hot Guanacaste sun to bake for a while, and sometimes that'll dry them out enough that a camera that wasn't doing anything will just pop back to life. Yeah.
The light on the cameras, does that generally spook them? Do they not notice, or does it like attract them?
Even without light, everything from like doves to every species of everything seems to notice the camera just because it's a camera, and everything looks at it and is like, okay, that's something else. Other like smarter things, like I said, like the monkeys will just mess it up. At night, it will frighten some prey species. It seems like a deer will go like, oh, but not even enough for it to run away, but just that in the beginning of the video you see that reaction. Most of the time, nothing really cares. Sometimes like that puma was obviously interested, but frightened, not usually doesn't frighten anything, but generally everything notices that something weird is here. I try to clean my, rub my hands in dirt before I touch them, so some of them I have to do with smell, but I just think, you know, they're so used to the natural environment. When something's outside the natural environment, they pick up on it.
I haven't seen snakes or big spiders. Is it just not on that video? Maybe on the second one?
I should have put some snakes in there. I don't get many videos. Probably of the thousands and thousands of videos, I might have 70 snake videos or something. They generally just don't trigger the cameras because I think their movement is slow and they're small, and it just they don't do it. Bigger snakes do. Snakes eating stuff does. Snakes being eaten by birds and things will trigger the camera because it's a lot of times with the snakes, the lizards and the amphibian things like that. It's some other animal doing the moving triggers the camera, and then that animal happens to be there as well. Yeah, they have heat sensor part of the. I think it's mostly motion, but on the package it says heat sensor as well. But I mean, leaves do it. I'm not sure, but not a lot of reptiles.
And you've never been hired to do anything around this lake?
Not close by. The closest I've gotten was turn at Nuevo Arenal and go away from the lake. I had a guy there that I work with through FBS that pays people to take care of the forest. And then Tenorio and north. But I've never had anything right around the lake.
Do you have any luck with rechargeable batteries?
They say that the voltage, amperage, I'm not sure, is different in rechargeable and it messes with the cameras. So I haven't done it a lot, but I've heard that it's a problem, so I haven't bothered. But it seems, I would love that to work. And then I have had solar panels, but then it's just like a please steal me sign for the most part, so I can't really do that. I also use, I don't know if I have it with me, I try to wrap, especially if I'm afraid there's people creeping around, I'll wrap the cameras in camo fabric. I'll put them, there'll be a spot that's like, this is an amazing spot, but it's also right where people would go, so I just have to skip it. It depends on the property. I get to know the properties as I go, and I'll learn if people are creeping around or if no one's out there.
Why are there so many people sneaking around at night?
It depends on the property. It could be, this is where Grandpa has always hunted, and he hunts here. And then he sees a camera, and he's like, well, you know, there's a camera there. And he's either going to take it and try to sell it, or just doesn't want to be caught.
Every camera they see is just an opportunity?
It can be. I've had other people like say hi to it and just leave, like hikers. I think generally the people that are doing something that they don't want to get caught by are the people taking them. I've actually had a camera of guys on horseback hunting, and they didn't know they went by one camera, and I recorded them, and then they went to another camera, and instead of stealing the whole thing, they just took the SD card. So then I thought, oh, okay. And so then I started putting notes in all my cameras saying, hey, I'm not here for you. If you're scared, take the SD card, leave my camera. That did not work.
It's a trust.
Yeah.
Criminal.
And then there's also like straps you can put on, like tie, like lock it in, stuff like that. But if they can cut the tree, like if somebody wants to break the camera, they're going to break the camera. Yeah. Good. I brought fun things to look at from mostly just what I found while tramping around in the forest. So if you want to come look at it, skulls and teeth and stuff like that.
Hold them up first and just,
all right.
And then we'll let everybody go up.
Armadillo, something ate this. I don't remember if I got videos of this or not. Tiny little painted turtle skull. 2 howler monkey skulls. To clean skulls, I use hydrogen peroxide. This was a possum that actually got videos of an ocelot eating. So like all this damage is from ocelot teeth. Juvenile white-faced monkey. It still has molars that haven't come through yet, so you can take a look at that. That's interesting. These are, what's it called, rosette spoonbill feathers, the only pink bird in Costa Rica, they tell me. This is from the porcupine that I raised. He would leave them in my gloves every time I was touching him to feed him when it was a juvenile. I found this in a creek. I have no idea what species of hummingbird nest. I worked along the Tempisque River, and there were a lot of crocodile nests, and this is already hatched crocodile eggshell. In that sugarcane plantation, I just found this half of a crocodile head, which is awesome. These are collared peccary hairs. At the rescue center I worked at, I was friends with the collared peccary and took these to show kids. And this is a jaguar footprint of a farmer had a whole like burlap sack of these from his finca down in Osa, and he gave me one. And yeah, that's it. So you can come up and take a look at all this stuff.
Just one thing about the center you worked at, the rehabilitation. How much actual rehabilitation was done?
There were like 2 kinds of animals. There were the ones that needed to stay and have been with people and were not going anywhere. And then there were the animals to be released. And those, like for instance with this porcupine, it never actually saw my face. I had a face cover thing that I put on. I only interacted with it when I was feeding it. Gloves, this camo suit. It was a whole situation. And then I did that same thing with monkeys to be released. I hand-raised parrots and a bunch of squirrels, things that, and they never saw me. And the idea was interact with them as little as possible and then release them and hope for the best.
The monkeys, did you know if they were...
We would call CNAC after they got to an age where they could be released, and then they took them. So I never got to, it was a very unsatisfying part of that job where you're just like, all right, good luck.
Yeah.
And generally I would say, honestly, that those animals aren't going to have a huge success rate in the wild because they just missed out on like the natural bringing up. So, but it was interesting. I got to work hands-on with a lot of species. Go ahead.
Yeah, do you have a fee schedule for putting a few cameras for a couple of months on a piece of property?
Sure. Yeah, I can give that to you. It's generally, I have to take in, like, to be perfectly honest, I have to think about all my cameras break all the time, how far am I driving, and then how frequently am I coming to review it. But I try to make it as cheap as possible so everybody says yes.
Are there any regulations in terms of where you can put cameras, like conservation land? Could you put cameras?
For when I worked in the national parks, I had to like apply as a researcher. So there's paperwork and all that stuff. And actually the tourism thing I'm trying to get into, I'm in the middle of doing paperwork for that too. On private land, I can just do it, yeah. But I actually had a great time getting to know all the guys that work in the parks and everything. And that one I just paid for myself just to get that opportunity to work with those guys, and it was really cool. Good?
Cool. Any more questions? All right. Well, so yeah, some of those animals are here. I know we have deer right down in this valley. Haven't seen them, but I've found where they bed down, and I found their scat. We're lousy with toucans around here. I have an army of them that go by my deck every morning, dozens of them at a time. So anyway, again, Vincent's done a lot of hard work and took a long drive to come up here and share this with us. So I want to say thank you again very much for coming. Let's give him another round of applause, please.